Thank you very much, Bekeme. Now we'll go to specific issues. What is clear is that, putting it quantitatively, Nigeria's GDP is about 400 billion US dollars, and all the government's budgets are less than 10% of this. Let's put it at about 35 billion US dollars. So clearly, we cannot operate this economy with a $35 billion private government budget. So what we need to do to have our GDP quadrupled to about 1.6 trillion by 2030 to take care of increasing population is to grow the private sector. And that probably explains why in crafting the SDGs, more roles were assigned to the private sector, unlike the MDGs that had less emphasis on private sector and more of government. So like Bismarck said, how do we evolve an investment-driven economy? We need more investments, domestic and foreign. I'll take our minds back to perhaps in the mid-80s, where we had about 300,000 telephone lines. According to the ITU at that time, the International Telecommunications Union, the prescription, and also under the Lagos Plan of Action that was adopted in 1980, was that by year 2000, the ratio of telephone lines should be 1 to 100, which meant that Nigeria needed those 1 million telephone lines to achieve this target. But at that time, we didn't have the resources as a country. The government didn't have the funds to provide the additional 700,000 telephone lines, because at that time, we're heavily indebted, and oil price was going for about maybe $11 per barrel. But then, in the early 2000s, sequel to the deregulation of the telecom sector, there was increased participation by the private sector. And we are all witness to what has happened in the last 18 years. We've had massive increase from about 400,000 telephone lines to more than 100. 100 million in less than 20 years. The revolution in Nigeria's telecom sector has been the most rapid in the world, but nobody is saying anything about this because the Western media only like to report the negative narrations. But the achievements in Nigeria has been unprecedented. Same thing with cement. We used to import cement. Government established cement plants to try to bridge the gap, but that didn't happen until again 2002, when the government came up with the cement policy and increased private sector participation. And between 2002 and 2012, many Nigerian entrepreneurs leveraged the government policy and were able to attract foreign capital into the sector, such that today we have become net exporters of cement. So what we need to do is to replicate what we did in cement, what we did in telecoms, and what we're about to do in the petroleum sector now. Because by the time the Dangote refinery is completed in 2 years from now, we'll become net exporters of petroleum products. And it's not Nigerian capital that is being used exclusively. We've had a lot of foreign capital injected into all this sector. Look at the banking sector too. The transformation has been quite phenomenal. So what is clear is that if we put our minds to something as Nigerians, we can achieve it. So the essence of this forum, like she pointed out, is to increase awareness about the SDGs. And the theme of our 50th anniversary celebration is driving Nigeria's sustainable development agenda. And for most of us in the Alumni Association, with all humility, like Kande Yumkela said, when we were growing up, by the way, I attended the University of Lagos. I was here. My first degree and my second degree. Right? I mean, we had the best of times. Femi Oterola's mother, we used to call her Madam Efficiency. She was in charge of our catering department. And she looked after us like our mothers would back home. We had fun. It was good. We don't like what you are going through now. But we want your children to enjoy a better life than you are enjoying now. So we are giving back to society. That's why we decided to come up with this forum to discuss the SDGs. So I'll go back to the panelists. How can we increase the private sector's participation in the Nigerian economy? Bismarck.
I think that is the most pertinent question. How are you going to increase private sector participation? First and foremost, the private sector, any investor for that matter, is taking a risk. And he's taking a risk, he's parting with his money, borrowing money, pledging his assets as collateral to take a risk. There's no guarantee that he will succeed. When he's making this decision, he should be encouraged to make such decisions, not discouraged with multiplicity of taxes, harassment, shakedowns, and all of that. So what has happened is that investors do not judge you by what you say, they judge you by what you do. If you are seen harassing other investors, nobody will bring their money here. So you have to start the philosophy that investment is as a result of corruption. That investment and success is because it's a zero-sum game. You've stolen the money from the consumers. You've overpriced them. You've done this and all of that. I think that we have to get away from that mentality. Because for every successful investor, there are probably 50 that didn't succeed and failed. So those that succeed need to be encouraged and incentivized to start with. 2, you will not invest in any business if you are not allowed to determine your price. So if you regulate the price and say this is the price, you cannot charge more than this. Tomorrow, you have no control over the costs. If my costs exceed, my marginal cost exceeds my marginal revenue, I will not produce. So we've got to accept philosophically in the first place that a partner there's mutual trust. The conspiracy theory, you made a comment just now about the Western media like to see the negative. I think to some extent may be right, but I think the Nigerian policymakers and the Nigerian investment community, the Nigerian public, have been fed with this conspiracy theory, neo-colonial, that there's this group of people trying to come and steal your resources. The truth is that you have resources, but those resources have become a declining function of time because they have become obsolete anyway. So if you didn't use it and used it to improve and elevate your own quality of life, then after a while, it'll be nothing. You said there was a time when we put out the bid for NITEL. The non-refundable deposit of NITEL, First Bank and all the others, was $182 million. They lost the bid. Some people got fired in First Bank because of that. Now, 20 years later, we sold whatever was left of NITEL for less than half of the non-refundable deposit because it had become obsolete. So there's a time for everything. The time to encourage investors to come in was yesterday. The time to do everything to motivate them and not harass them was yesterday. The time to believe that an investment-led strategy combined with a government-led strategy is what is going to deliver growth. And I'm talking about quantum leap growth, not mild growth. We were growing at 7%, 6-7% 20, 30 years ago. Now we are lucky to eke out 2% when our population is 2.8 or 2.9% growth. So this is not going to do. This is a race to the bottom if we don't do something about bringing investors. And investors are not foreign investors, mind you. Investors are both domestic and international investors. All that the investor wants is a guaranteed or a decent return on investment and that he can enforce his rights in case there's a dispute. I think that's the most important thing. Thank you.
Now we have less than 10 minutes to go. Madam, can we have your remarks, please?
Well, I will have to say that the policy of government is focused towards the foreign and domestic investment. Part of the policy is the ERGP, the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan of the federal government, embedded in the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, to allow foreign local investment to grow, the government has have a very flexible policy to guarantee the investment and bring also foreign investors. Part of it is the 24 hours registration policy, that in 24 hours you register your business, especially the young entrepreneur. Of course, for the foreign investors, they can get visa on arrival. You don't need to go and get your visa before you come to Nigeria to look at it. You can get visa on arrival. They also guarantee and, of course, encourage foreign investment in Nigeria. I think with all of this, and of course, for us to understand how the private sector can participate in achievement of SDGs. I think investment directly by private sector will contribute to the achievement of SDG. Your business, you can develop your business here, and you are contributing to the achievement of SDG. Also, you can support government coming together of private sector, working together with public sector to put infrastructure in place. And part of what we are doing, which is very unique, is mobilization of the private sector in Nigeria and the multinational coming to help, to support government in getting some of our children back in school, fixing our health sectors, and even building the health sector for themselves for business. So there are a lot of ways in which private sector can work with government for us to achieve SDGs, directly, indirectly, and with collaboration with the public sector. So what I want us to take home here is that we need innovation. We need to innovate new ideas, new concepts to support government. The government will be able to support you if you come with one. So take it now that it's not about government alone, it's about all of us. So whatever we can do ourselves to support government, and government can encourage you, it's something, because our investment today is for tomorrow. What we have lost over the years can be regained if we start today. So I want us to start today. New thinking, new innovation, new ideas, I know Nigeria. I know Nigerians are very smart. They are very intelligent. And I know that together, working with government and contributing your own quota, as individual, as a group, as a university, will help us achieve SDG. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Well, today the World Bank just released its new ranking in the ease of doing business. Nigeria moved up by 50 positions. We used to be 146. If you remember, we moved 146 by improving about 20 positions, or 24 positions moving up. So we are now ranked about 131 in the world out of 190, moving from 146, which means that the business environment is improving not only at the national level, but even at the sub-national level. Like Dr. Jumoke Oduwole said, who is also an alumni of this university, that the state governments are actively involved This is the feedback the World Bank got from entrepreneurs trying to do or doing business in those states, which goes back to what Ms. Adefulere was saying, that is not only for government alone. All hands must be on deck. Participatory approach is the best development process. And on that note, community-based NGOs and other Nigerians, how can they work with the private sector, formal private sector in this case, because he was talking about the informal private sector, and the public sector, in ensuring that we have a better life for Nigerians 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line?
Thank you very much. The role of community organizations and civil society organizations is primarily advocacy, okay? And so I straddle that space. So I work business, and then we also have a nonprofit. And, you know, I mentioned one of the things that we do, for instance. We know that the Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the federal government have a focus of bringing peace to extractive industry, to the extractive industries. And one way to do that is, beyond policy, we brought it down to say, how can we make the people happier in order that we reduce conflict? How can we make the people happier in order that we reduce the destruction of infrastructure? How can we make the people happier in order that there is growth? Because when you look at that space, as mature as it is, there has not been a lot of improvement. And I think that this is something that, you know, the non-profit and civil society organizations are currently pushing hard. And, you know, they would push hard for businesses to actually understand their role in driving development. And they would push hard for people to be giving a voice, whether business, whether community persons, and all of that. And they'll push for educational reforms, for instance, because young people are working too hard to educate themselves. So lots of the young people are educating themselves on the internet rather than getting quality education at school. And unfortunately, I don't think that UNILAG is one of those schools who's not giving quality education. So well done to the team at UNILAG. So basically, I would say that to round up, because there's not a lot of time, as Antonio Guterres, the 9th Secretary General of the UN, said, there is no plan B, because we do not have a planet B. The time to work is now, and we need to focus on making Nigeria great again.
Thank you very much. The grandfather of a Nigerian, Dr. Yumkele, can we have your last shots, please?
Nigerians don't have to go far to know that they can do it. Ethiopia, growing at 8-9%. Cote d'Ivoire next door, why not you? Right now, Nigeria has between 23 to 30 technology hubs. What the government should be thinking now, if you did so well in the digital mobile revolution, make now a target that instead of 23 to 30 tech hubs, in another 5 years, you want to do 200. Then you engage the youth. It is important. I believe it is imperative. It is imperative for Nigeria, when you look at your demographics, that government has to have a clear strategy of engaging the youth. If 50% of your population is going to be below 30, you either make them the skilled workforce of Africa and the world, or you are waiting for a major crisis. This is true across Africa. We need to create lots of jobs, but let us make the young people entrepreneurs. This is why I support your private philanthropists, Tony Elumelu, Aliko Dangote, and others, who are investing in entrepreneurship now for the youth. We need to do that. And when you talked about NGO engagement, tap into your private philanthropy. I see what private philanthropy is doing in Asia, in trying to do the things governments cannot do. Engage folks like those to be able to invest in institution building, in skills development, and investing in the youth to experiment. Bismarck said something about Einstein. You got to try and try, but somebody has to finance that stage in which you are experimenting. That's where government capital comes in. That's where also private philanthropy will come in. So again, the youth, this forum is really about you. If we cannot achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, you'll be in trouble. Learn more about them, engage, and stand up and be counted. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Just before we round up, yesterday, the federal government changed the name of the Ministry of Communications to Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, which shows that the government is placing a lot of emphasis on digitalizing our operations, and that's where you play. So the ball is in your court. On this note, that we conclude this interactive session. Thank you very much, Dr. Yimkela, for coming to Nigeria. I want to thank the panelists for your various contributions, and thanks for the audience. Thank you very much.
Please, round of applause for our panelists once more. Round of applause for them, please. Please, we have just about 5 minutes left here. We'll be out of this place. Please, may I respectfully call upon the former governor of Lagos State, Mrs. Sarah Shoson, to please. Former Deputy Governor, please. Former Deputy Governor, please. Princess, please. Princess Sarah Shoson, you are welcome, ma'am. Please, you will kindly do us some presentations here today to thank and appreciate our panelists. Please, round of applause for her, please. And in
no, not going. Students, can you please sit in? Please, 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 just allow us. Emma Binu.
Thank you, ma. Eshema.
Teacher Nimio.
Yes. In no particular order, Dr. Kandel Yumkela, please.
The second one, representative of the Vice Chancellor, there's a family meeting. There's a family meeting.
Now to Mr. Bismarck Rewani.
Okay, the mic. Okay. The light is, yes. On behalf of the University of Lagos Alumni Association, we're giving this recognition award to Mr. Bismarck Rewani, that all of us, I listen to him always, and I think you should do. Thank you very much for contributing to today's success. God bless you.
Now to Mrs. Bekeme Masade Oluowola.
Bekeme, I want to reassure you that they admired you when you were coming in. As one of the youngest one. And we've been blessed. So on behalf of the alumni, we present this to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma. Thank you, Princess.
And of course,
I now call on the representative. Ma, I don't want you to present.
Okay. And she happens to be my sister.
Yes, you will support. Please, I now call on the representative of the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos, who has been unavoidably absent. He is also representing himself in his own capacity, and that is the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics and Research, Professor Jide Familoni. Wale Familoni, please. You're welcome, sir. You do the presentation, sir. To Mrs. Adejoke Orilope Adefulure.
On behalf of University of Lagos Alumni Association, recognition award presented to Mrs. Adejoke Orilope Adefulure, being a discussant at this association Golden Jubilee lecture. Thank you very much, ma'am. I'm privileged to be among the two deputies. Maybe I should be a governor. Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Yunkela, maybe you should be the baby, sir. The star attraction.
Yes. Brought up, I'll be here then.
Yeah, thank you. The panelists may still take their seats. Please, just before we round up, I'd like to recognize the organizers of this program. They've done a great job. Please, round of applause for them. The chairman of the committee is no other person than Mr. Tope Smart, the GMD, NEM Insurance PLC. Mr. Tope Smart, please come on stage. He is also the chairman of Nigerian Insurance Association and the vice president of African Insurance Association. Mr. Tope Smart, you are welcome. Please on stage. The vice chair is Mrs. Sarah, the princess again. Shoson, you are welcome, ma'am. Dr. Wahid Olagunju, also a member of the committee, the former MD, Bank of Industry. Thank you, sir. Mr. N.M. Ufot, amen, please. Dr. Aaron Akinloye, the National Secretary. Dr. Adeoti Lukman, the UNILAG Alumni Association Chair for Lagos. Mrs. Regina Chris Obodo, she is the National PRO. Dr. Lawal Are, Mr. Oluwarotimi Shodimu Esquire. Where's my brother? Please come on stage. I'm sure he's wearing a bow tie like me somewhere here. And last but not the least, Ms. Barrister Tunde Fadahunse. Please kindly come on stage for a good photograph with the panelists, please. Please, the Vice Chancellor should wait behind. Please, just after this, the vote of thanks, but before then, my Vice Chancellor shall not be here and not give some remarks. I will, by power conferred upon me by this microphone, I will call on the Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos. Please, round of applause for him. He will give a bit remarks.
distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the time is far spent. And I'm just going to congratulate the alumni. I want to congratulate ourselves for this wonderful program, which is continuing. And I pray that 55, 60, all of us will be here to come and contribute to the national development that University of Lagos is built and established for. Thank you very much for waiting to this time, and thank the elders of the university for coming. Please, more information.
Please, we have the reception for you before your place. Vote of thanks for the students, please. Vote of thanks on behalf of the Alumni Association of the University of Lagos.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. We appreciate you. God bless you all. Thank you very much.